with us twice. And the last time was in May of 2022. So I guess I'd like to start by asking, how did you first hear of FCP Live-In? Do you remember?
Yes, my father was at Seal Rock in Saco in it's a rehabilitation center, and he was slipping kind of fast, and he basically had refused care at that point. So we had to make a decision, and we were going to move him back home into just like a big living room that he had with a hospital bed. And Seal Rock recommended FCP to kind of handle the care. And I think it was eventually going to turn into hospice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember that you and I worked pretty closely during that time. It was kind of stressful, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So he died actually at Seal Rock before we were able to pull the trigger on it. And because he was requiring so much attention, I think my mom sort of slipped through the cracks on how far gone she actually might have been until he died. And then the reality was we needed to bring in 24/7 care. So we reached back out to FCP because when you're going through the situation, you really don't have any knowledge. It's hard you can read on the internet, but it doesn't really do anything. So Seal Rock throwing the recommendation was very powerful.
Oh, good. I'm so glad they had that confidence in us. And I'm glad that we got to work with your family. It's been a wonderful experience on our end too, Michael. So I guess Seal Rock's endorsement is what made you choose us then. I'm sure,
Well, it was, but again, it's when you're going through it, it's not like you've been advertised to and you've got four companies that you're going to just make a decision. I didn't feel anyways, because what FCP offers, there's a lot of companies that do companionship where, 4-hour shifts here, or, take the mom out for groceries. But to my memory, you were the only one that really offered 24/7 live-in care where we weren't. One of the things with some of the other agencies that we worked with was where my mom was starting to get confused. We were running 4 people through the house every day, and she couldn't keep track of all the different faces, and that was stressing her out.
That would stress me out too.
That would stress anybody out.
And you trying to keep up with the schedule with those folks and making sure somebody was there with mom. I remember that too. You had a lot on your shoulders.
You don't even know who they are. You don't even get to meet some of them. They just kind of come and go. And so you have to have a lot of trust in the agency, I guess, and who they're sending over. So this is a better option. FCP was by far a better option.
I'm glad you feel that way. I believe we're the only one in Maine, at least. I could be wrong about that, but I believe we're the only company that does offer one consistent caregiver that stays with the client like a family member would. They're in the home 24/7, just like your sister came from Texas. So, all right. So, how do you think your mom feels about her caregiver and her experience with FCP Live-In?
I think initially it was difficult because of the acceptance of I'm now going to have a roommate to whom I have no idea it is. Over time, we're in a situation right now where I believe those two are very close. They are absolutely like roommates. I've seen them bicker like roommates, and then minutes later they're laughing about something. So we're fortunate that the situation we're in with our current caregiver is very comfortable.
Good.
For Carolee.
Yeah, good. And your mother's a little sweetheart.
Oh, everybody loves her. I mean, I think I don't know a lot about the industry, but in the schemes of assignments, I think it's a good assignment to get Carolee. You have a lot of fun. Well, she's in a living situation now where she has more of a social life than I do. Really different than how she was living when my father was alive, in a neighborhood in a big house, very isolated. She's now down at Atlantic Heights in this little community down there, and I can't even keep up with them. I mean, I hear stories after all. We went to this place, and they're going to like the finest restaurants, and they're doing arts, and they're going to music performances. It's incredible.
Oh, I'm happy for that.
Family's
And
really
that's
excited
good for
about it.
caregiver. They're at the assisted living where she is now. Her caregiver is there with her.
It's not assisted living. The assisted living's kind of that's like the inn they call it, and those are more like apartments or what have you.
Oh, the
She's actually in a
independent.
cottage. Yeah, she's in her own, and it's like a house.
Oh,
Her
I
caregivers,
misunderstood. When you said Atlantic Heights, I was thinking it was the assisted
the
living,
inn.
but that's wonderful.
No, she's
So
in the cottages.
yeah.
So it's a 3-bedroom. There's like an apartment above it where Tina, our caregiver, lives. 2.5 baths.
Wonderful.
It's unbelievable. I think it's 2,200 square feet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
people go there. They can't even believe how she lives.
Well, tell me some of the things that her caregiver does for your mom, if you would.
I think that she makes breakfast in the morning. When my mom sleeps till 9 or whatever, and Tina's awake, and they have coffee together. My mom has she calls it her garden room, and it's all windows, and they sit on the couch and they look outside at the birds and they have coffee. She makes breakfast. She distributes medication. She encourages my mom to shower. My mom doesn't need any help getting dressed or showering or anything like that, but she does need a nudge to kind of get going for the day.
Cues, yeah.
Yes. They get their groceries, dinner, they start talking dinner pretty early in the afternoon. And then if there's an event, a bus comes by and they hop on the bus and they go to the event. I think the house is incredibly clean. So I think they spend a lot of time cleaning. My mom, that's what she did. She had a very clean house as I was a kid growing up or whatever. They clean. It's pretty much, she's they're just hanging out all day. I would say if
a companion.
Yeah. My mom's, she's got bad dementia, so she can't really remember anything. She doesn't like if I visit on Monday, she doesn't remember Monday night that I was there. But Tina has encouraged my mom to keep a notebook. So my mom writes down almost like a journal what happened, so she can reference back to her journal. And wonderful. A lot of the journal is forward thinking too. Like they'll write like, oh, I'm going to whatever restaurant in 2 days, and she writes down in her journal the what the weather was. And then my mom, because there's an extra bedroom, we turned it into an art. My mom was kind of not a professional artist, but actually very talented.
Yes, I've seen her.
Yeah, she goes in there and she does art every day, and she paints birdhouses, and I think that that's a really good deflection. So if my mom's having a rough day, Tina kind of deflects her into the art room, and there's music in there and all her stuff, and she just goes and hangs out there. And
that sounds great, Michael. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I know you have sent other families to us. You've referred families to us, and thank you so much.
Did that work
out? I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry. It's been such a busy year.
Yeah, it was somebody, I think, who was a lawyer from Buffalo who was hooking somebody up in like the mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
In the mid-Atlantic who needed a service. And then I have a friend who's out in the Buffalo area who does referrals, but it's regional, where you guys are national.
Well, no, actually, we're just in New England only at this point, but we are expanding. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But in any case, I wanted to thank you for having that confidence in us. Is there anything else that you would like to say about FCP Live-In, or what you would say to a family you're referring to us, Michael? Any closing thoughts for me?
I would say that the only knock I have on it is when we've had transition between caretakers is not getting enough time to understand the person coming in and how they're vetted and name and kind of their some background on that person.
Well, I think we've changed that process since the beginning of your start of care for your mom to now. We've been honing our processes really through COVID. We did a lot of changes to our processes. It made us better, to be honest with you. But in the past, we waited to hear who the caregiver was, and we'd pass it along in a text or a call to the family. Now we have information sheets that right before the start of care, the family knows who is coming, how many years experience they have, what their certification is in, what they specialize in, whether they can cook or not, whether they're a driver or not. So that's something I think was heard from more people than you. And so we kind of fixed that process.
Good. I think that that's really important. The billing process has been very good. And having dealt with some other agencies, your billing system is very simple, very consistent, very fair. Everything has been really, you don't think about those things, but once you start going through the process and it's just that smooth and easy to understand, that's been really good. And I don't really deal too much with it other than looking it over. I think that's been that's a really strong, the billing factor was really strong. It's a very fair deal too, compared to some of the other agencies that we were working with that really weren't set up like you guys.
I'm glad to hear that, because I know I had a front row seat to you handling everything and all the things that were going on in Mom's life and the selling of her home and everything that you've juggled. So I'm glad that made it a little easier for you.
Yeah, I think that was really good. I also think that you guys have your corporate office in Connecticut, and they've done a really nice job communicating some of the bigger things. When there's a break coming, you hear from them. They kind of give you the head. They remind you of what's kind of going on, because I guess we have a really good relationship with the caregiver that would be the most consistent caregiver. So we're pretty well plugged in. But I think they do a nice job. If you don't have that relationship, keeping you plugged in. The drivers that have picked people up and dropped people off are awesome.
Good.
Just funny guys that it's a tough lifestyle. They drive a lot of miles to get to Maine or whatever. So that's been really good. I would say that the knock on that is on that transition period. It's very difficult for the person coming in to have a 15-minute orientation. Like if we could get like an overnight type of thing, that would be even better. So the person coming in, it's more fair to the person coming in to not just be walking into not really knowing the process or getting a 15-minute orientation. I mean, imagine any job going into with a 15-minute orientation.
Absolutely. But the field supervisor, who is the support system and supervisor of our caregivers, if you will, and I believe that has been consistently Sarah, hasn't it?
Yes.
Before the caregiver ever arrives, Michael, she goes through the care plan with them and goes through everything, what your mom eats, when she eats, what her routine looks like. So they might need, they might have 15 minutes once they arrive in the home to kind of get the lay of the home, but we do prepare them prior to them arriving. Sarah spends time on the phone with them.
Sarah's been great.
Yeah, she is
great.
She's
like that.
wonderful.
Even that setup that you guys have, where you have the field, where you actually have sort of another person out there that's kind of almost like a consultant.
Right.
Not that we haven't had any problems, but it's been great to be like, just talk about nutrition with her a little bit, talk about the day. She can say things to the caregiver that maybe I wouldn't say. What I found with the experience, the hardest part, I would think the experience is, in our situation, the caregiver really dealing with the family, not just my mom is really easy to deal with. I think it's harder. They have to kind of come in and kind of deal with the family dynamics.
They sure do.
Yeah. So not only do you have to get comfortable with Carolee, my mom, but the daughter-in-law, my wife, me, my son is over there all the time. His fiance is over there all the time. So, you're dealing with all these other family members. Tina's been with us since May. She's taken maybe two or three times she's gone home or whatever, but she is the primary caretaker. And today's her birthday. They're wishing her happy birthday. She has literally become part of the family.
That's wonderful.
That didn't happen overnight either. There was adjustment to that, but for both parties, she had to adjust to our family. We had to adjust to her. That has been exceptional. Really.
Michael, this is just so wonderful to hear. I haven't been able to connect with you too much. Usually I kind of hand off, and then our field supervisors kind of are the go-to person for our families. But as I said, you and I had a lot of dealings with each other, a lot of phone conversations, and it's just so wonderful to hear that you're happy. I'm so glad to hear it. So.
Yeah, everything's working out great. We got her, getting her out of that house, getting her into this cottage. With her disease, it's socialization, activity, consistency, and exercise. And because we made that move, she's able to do all those things in this new environment. I think Tina's more comfortable in the new environment. That was a big house to kind of be bombing around in. And
it was huge, yes.
And I think, there's neighbors that knock on the door, and I know Tina was feeding them soup, and there's just so much going on in that community that wasn't happening. So that was a really good move. And then getting the consistency of Tina, where, and I mean, she's unbelievable. She goes for really long stretches. So we never have to deal with the transitions. We never have to deal with a new person coming in. You do, but it isn't that often. To the point where we've even been encouraging her to get a little more time off, but she seems to be good to go on it. Yeah. So,
well, I can see why she would want to. Pardon?
They spent Christmas here. She spent Thanksgiving here. So we're doing family holidays with Tina as well. So I guess that's kind of part of the bonding experience. We had a whole Christmas over at Kara. We were going to do it at my house, but we lost power with that storm. So we went over to her house and we had a Christmas there. They did the tree. I mean, it was pretty good experience for everybody. And it's great. My mom it's great to do Christmas. You realize the value of those events when they get to 85 and.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time today. We've been meaning to get this done.
I know. My apologies for taking so long. You fired that out right in the middle of complete chaos.
I know.
They lived there for 30 years and they were pack rats. I mean, I was finding tax returns from the late 60s and early 70s that my dad had saved. They saved everything. Report cards from first grade for me. You can't even believe the amount of stuff that they had that we had to sift through.
Yeah. I knew you had a lot on your shoulders.
She handled it, the whole move, which we were concerned about, the new room, new bathroom, new everything. She handled it great. They went up to their lake house. They came back. They were in Saco, and she loves it there.
Wonderful.
And we sold everything before the end of the year, so she's completely out of some of her she had a couple of real estate things we got her out of. So there's we're just simplifying everybody's lives.
You're probably just stopping and taking a deep breath right about now, aren't you?
Right. Well, and she lives right down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's close to you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's been awesome. I mean, I don't see her anymore, but she's just right down the road. Like today, I'll just pop over there and see what's going on. And that was a really good move. And she's at a place now where there's memory care. So hopefully that's a long ways out, but we finally have a long-term plan. If we keep going in the direction, I mean, she's definitely slipping. And you can't really monitor how fast or slow she's slipping, but we had no plan 6 months ago. Now I think we've got everything at least plotted out on the journey, which is great.
Well, I would say, having known you for the last few years, you are a man with a plan.
Yeah. Well, when I don't have one, it affects me. So you know what I mean? It's self-fulfilling, believe me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time today.
You.